Morning, Zoomers. Just to check that you can hear me okay, if someone would give me a thumbs up. Yeah, great, thank you. Thanks, Sandy. Beautiful morning here in Brighton. I'm going to start by standing up in the beautiful, what I think of as a really beautiful pose, Tadasana. So we can have either feet together or feet apart. Shoulders naturally dropping. Breath through the nose. Head in line with the spine, energetically speaking. So if the feet are together, it may be that the thighs are not, or it may be that the thighs are together but the feet are not. It's fine either way. Or it may be feet and thighs are together. I'm moving my feet. I find that very, very useful. I can't be sure that you'll find it useful, but it's not just inherently useful that one moves the feet, but the way and the intent. So the way you move your feet makes the intention, thank you, Claudette, makes the intention come together. So the intention is absorption. Absorption is the same as flow. So moving the feet to move the rest of the body, moving the rest of the body to loosen up, right the way through to the crown of the head. Shoulders drop naturally as a byproduct, you could say, of organic, natural lift that itself is a byproduct of beginning to feel a bit of expansion into the world, into the body, into the flow. Breath will come and go naturally, expressively, honestly. And chest muscles begin to release as a result of feeling less tense. And as a result of chest muscles releasing, the arms go backwards. It's not the same as pulling the arms backwards, which would in turn pull the lower back forwards, but instead it's just releasing the chest muscles by releasing any tension in the mind to do with ideas and opinions. Thanks, Claudette. Thank you. So just to recap, Tadasana, feet together or apart. If the thighs touch before the feet, it's going to be more comfortable to have the feet apart. So that works well as long as the feet are level, not turned out or in. Then movement that starts with the feet. Any way you want. I lift up the inside of one foot and then lift up the inside of the other foot and turn, and everything flows and moves as a result. That flow goes right the way up through the body, including the chest, which rises into the space. The arms release. Morning, Tanya. Morning. As the chest releases, the head rises right to the crown of the head. And then we'll complete that lovely flowing rising feeling by rising the arms up. So Urdhva Hasta. Urdhva means upwards, Hasta means hands. So hands up. It's not an arrest. Palms face medial towards each other. And there's movement which is purposed. The Sanskrit word artha is a very important word, and it means purpose. Movement that is purposed to this sense of bringing our experience together. It's recognized, isn't it, by all of us that our experience can be fractured. So this is bringing all of the experience together. So we want everything to flow. Now that includes your head position. Make sure your head is not thrust forwards, it's not tight, there's space, there's flow. It's such an important concept, and not concept, but a feeling that we're looking for. In yoga, vahita in Sanskrit, flow. So it happens in the breath, the brain, the body. You're trying to recruit muscles. You're trying to lift muscles. You're trying to find little waifs and strays. You're trying to soften hardness and bring it into the flow. If you're ready to release your arms, you go ahead. Bring your hands to prayer position at the heart center. Tadasana Namaskara. Namas means to bow or reverence. Kara means action. Again, I'm moving my feet as I'm talking to you in Tadasana Namaskara, because it's not a rigid thing that a rigid thing is doing. There's not a rigid, fixed me doing a rigid, fixed goal, Tadasana, a thing. But instead, it's a movement that begins to absorb us to the point where it's like dance. So I'm moving my feet so that everything flows, and the movement that we create is utilized to bring everything together, bring the skin, the muscles, the bones into this present moment, into this present posture. From here, we're going to interlace our fingers, stretch our arms diagonally down and raise the arms up. As they go up, of course, at a certain point, the lower back might want to travel forwards. A little bit of that's fine, but we mostly want lift in the lower back muscles. Don't hold your breath at all. Move in ways that feel lovely. So feeling lovely is a part of yoga. Incorporate this cell, this fiber, that fiber. There are layers upon layers, like the layers of an onion, to incorporate. And that goes for anyone forever. It's not like you get good at the pose and then you've got your certificate, Instead, it's just constant recruitment of various fibers into this flow, into this love, you could say, into this uplift. Tummy is toned, lower back muscles, quadratus lumborum are lifting, and on and on. So the movement, of course, creates hydration, and the hydration helps to create glide. Take a big wide circle. Well done, everyone. Hands onto the hips. Step the feet apart. I'm just going to adjust the lights while you step your feet apart because they're flickering a bit. So a generous stride. Breathe through your nose. Jaw soft. Eyes soft. Brain soft. Just go for very bright. That'll do. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. It's a really wide stride. There's really something positive about it. We've got to expand into it, of course. Left toes in, right foot and leg out on the ball of the foot first. And then the last bit is done on the heel. That should give you heel to arch alignment. Heel to toe alignment's okay. Heel to heel alignment is not useful. Raise your arms to raise your ribs. So I think it's nice to feel the ribs raise and to feel that little muladhara, that pelvic floor support. It's not a muscular tightening. It's literally what it sounds like. It's an adhara, a support, a buoyancy, a drive of energy up into what we call the central channel in yoga. Double check that your back toes have actually turned in. And then if you're happy with that, inhale, raise your lead arm. Exhale, come down. Strong means together in yoga and in the world, actually. So that's what we want to think of the pose as being strong in terms of it's got strength, it's robust. And you achieve that strength by bringing every fiber together, and you achieve that through movement and intention. So the intention is what guides the movement, and the movement is what facilitates the intention. So the intention is togetherness. So if something's pulling in a different direction, opposing the pose, you find that area. You ask it what it needs to come on board. It might say, oh, just a bit of time, just give me a bit of time. And then the body comes on board. Or it might say, oh, a bit of movement. But you keep inviting parts of the body that are not on board to get on board. And that's all. You just keep inviting them and asking them what they need. But you never give up on the invitations. Inhale calmly. Come up. Hands on hips, feet face forwards. Breathe through your nose if you can. Again, perhaps you can feel muladhara. Often the pelvis wants to move backwards or forwards or sideways. That's a natural way of just keeping the pelvic floor from entering into a gripping state, which is not anything to do with Muladhara. Muladhara is a support, not a grip, but a support. Back toes in, front foot and leg out on the ball of the foot. Finish off the turn on the heel, heel to arch. Alignment, raise the ribs. Breathe through the nose, release the roots of the neck. Inhale, exhale. Coming down calmly over time. Not holding the breath, breathing through the nose. Cool, calm, collected, and strength again. So, for example, to get your front leg together, to get all the cells of the muscles like the quadriceps, the four muscles on the front of the thigh, to get all those muscles together, you might move the weight on your feet and feel different responses. So the weight might go big toe side, little forwards, little backwards. And in this way, you can begin to feel what effectively recruits or invites a muscle cell, a muscle fiber into the general uplift along the front of the leg from skin to bone. It's a long-term project. And when the front of the leg tones up, the back of the leg releases more. Hamstrings release more. We're going to windmill down our hand to the floor, externally rotate the back heel and step back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, the downward facing dog position. Spend a bit of time deepening the contact between the palms and the mat, between the palms and the mat, in a meditative manner. In other words, a manner that absorbs us. Sometimes people have said to me, I'm not very good. In fact, someone said it to me yesterday on the phone. I'm not very good at meditation. I should try and get better at meditation. Well, that's kind of an oxymoron. Everyone's good at meditation because everyone meditates, because everyone gets absorbed by things. It's just sometimes it doesn't last very long. So we might be absorbed for a second or two by the first sip of coffee that we have, if you like coffee. Or you might be absorbed for a moment or two if you open your front door in the spring and the sun's got a bit of warmth and it's on your face. You close your eyes and you're absorbed. So it's the same here with your palms and the mat. There's a sort of softening, a sort of giving, a yielding, a surrender. It's called Sharanagati in Sanskrit. Yielding. So that we get this absorption of the molecules of the palms into the molecules of the mat. We should point out that the hands should be equidistant from the sides of the mat, and the feet also should be the same distance from the side of the mat as each other. How wide or narrow? Well, there's a whole variety of different widths you can take that do different things. Heels back, thighs up through those layers of the quadriceps. Layer after layer after layer after layer. Working through the back. Breathing deep. When you're ready, take your hands a little wider if you need to, so you can bring your shoulders calmly forwards. Now, it's worth saying that if there are extreme problems with the wrists, you can do this on the forearms, but it's also worth saying that if there are problems with the wrists, this is often one of the ways in which you can solve those problems, because a lot of the problems is to do with the carpal tunnel, and that's to do with the inflammation or stiffness in that area. So this stretches the ligament across the back of the carpal tunnel, makes a bit more space. So I find personally this very, very useful. Very, very useful. We're going to bring the knees down very slowly towards the floor until they touch very lightly, which is a bit frustrating perhaps, before we lift them up again. So that's quite a strong thing to do, but worth doing. We're going to do it one more time. It's like a sort of knee press up. Touch the floor, they lift up again. Once you've done that, you simply bring your knees forwards and sit in a kneeling position, for which many of us will need to use a block between the heels and the buttocks. We're going to have one hand resting on top of the other. We're breathing through the nose if we can. The jaw is soft. It's called Vajrasana. Breathe through your nose if you can. Now, remember in Tadasana, and when we were standing up, how we let the weight move on the feet. We move the feet themselves to feel everything above moving. Here, it's similar, isn't it? If you roll on your shins, you give the muscles on the front of the shins a massage. You give the calf muscles a massage. You give the thigh muscles, the gluteal muscles, the quadricep muscles, on and on. Everything gets a bit of a massage, like squeeze and release, isn't it? Squash and release, squeeze and release, compact and extend. That's what's happening. And as that happens slowly but surely, the fluid content increases, the hyaluronic acid increases, so that you begin to get a feeling of flow in the body, which will then, well, immediately be echoed in the breath. And as it's echoed in the breath, it begins to get echoed in the mind, and it's like a tight fist begins to release its white-knuckled grip and slowly become open. Buddhists call it shunya, empty or open. Couple more breaths just as you are. Now from here, we're going to extend our legs out. We're going to use a belt if you've got a belt nearby. It's worth having. Got one right here. At home, if you don't have a yoga belt, no problem. You can use your dressing gown belt as long as you remember to put it back onto your dressing gown before opening the door to the postman. And then we're sitting with the buttock flesh drawn out and back, and possibly sitting on a block, or definitely sitting on a block if you're not sure if your lower back is light, or if you know it's not, then sitting on the block can bring the lightness that's required for this pose. So this is a version of Dandasana. Take the pata, the belt, round the balls of the feet and pull to drive the back of the body in and lift the front of the body up, and it's gentle. Mridu. Mridu actually just means soft. Manju can mean gentle. So we're lifting softly, gently. But that doesn't preclude dynamism. You can be dynamic and gentle at the same time. So gentle here just means respectful. It means acknowledging the way things are rather than being careful and cautious, which might make us sort of feel a little bit tense. Gentle is much more relaxed. It's easy. So you're pulling on the belt, you're drawing your tummy back, you're driving the spine gently forwards and up, and you're lifting the crown of the head, breathing freely through the nose, keeping the collarbones broad and wide, making sure the back doesn't become stiff or tight, sitting as close to the upright as you can, tall, upright, spacious, breath-centered. Tall, upright, spacious, breath-centered. Great. We'll release from using the belt and see if we can do the pose without the belt the same. So hands now come by the sides of the hips, shoulders are back, head is in line with the spine. We do need some weight to release. So some of the weight of the legs, sometimes we're holding that up. And that release will be connected to a release of the breath. So close your eyes if you're happy to. Drop your thighs and lift the spine as one thing. Thighs down, spine up. Shoulders back, head in line with the spine. Breathe through the nose if you can. Shoulders drifting backwards like they did in Tadasana. Can be quite dynamic. The stretch on the pectoralis, we don't realize how much tension we're holding in our chest muscles sometimes. Especially, right now it's pretty stormy. And so we kind of weather the storm with our bodies, don't we? We kind of shield, which makes us very, very tight, but we don't need to be tight. We relax. Okay, well done. Ease out from that pose. Now, we're going to come forwards to the front of our mat. Make sure you're not sitting on anything, and make sure that your mat is free behind you, so there's loads of space, because we're going to stack one foot on top of the other. We're going to take the belt around the top foot. This is one of the exciting bits of the class. I hope you're ready for a thriller minute. We're going to lean back, and as we go back, the leg comes up. We walk up the putta, the belt. We extend through the inner groin of the lower leg. Neck soft, jaw soft. Breathing without holding the breath. Now, everything is subtle. When you hear instructions in yoga, to make them happen requires calmness, deepening. So, for example, let's see if we can calmly extend and stretch the inner groin of the lower leg. Now, the more I, as a person, struggle and try, the more disconnected I become, because the more of me I create, the more object I create, the more separation between the two. But if I calm myself, shaitilya, it means relax, shaitilya. If I relax the weight of the pelvis, relax the weight of the head, breathe more naturally, more expressively, then I can calmly begin to investigate, feel into the inner groin of the lower leg. Expressive, natural breath. Now, when you're ready, hold the belt with one hand only, the same hand as the raised leg. We are going to bring the leg out to its own side. The hand that was sharing the hold on the belt now goes on the thigh of the other leg. And we're going to pull the top leg towards our head as much as we can and out to its own side. Really calm, slow, meditative. In other words, you melt as you move. So that's breath, that's relaxation. You melt as you move. If we can, through calmness, we see if we can meditatively open that space of the top of the inner thigh of the leg that doesn't have the belt around it. Well done. Bring the leg back up when you're ready. Bend the lower leg. Release the upper leg. Place the belt on your tummy, hands on your ribs, and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out like a sigh. Take a few of those deep, 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 deep breaths. Real sense of giving, real sense of surrender, real sense of shedding, real sense of letting go. Roll over onto your side when you're ready. Come up from the side and extend your legs out. And we'll do the same that we just did on that leg on the other. So stacking the foot, placing the putta, the belt, the strap, pulling gently. So you get a kind of an interesting version of dandasana like this. Breathing through the nose, nice and calm. When ready, the exciting roll back and walk up the belt as much as you can. Take a deeper breath whenever you feel like it, so there's some expressive release. You know, it's really beautifully honest yoga. It's for you as you are. I don't know that much about the grunge scene in the 90s, but I know there was a band called Nirvana, and so do you. And I think one of their songs maybe was called Come As You Are. Certainly, I think that was the lyric. I can hear it in my mind. And of course, Nirvana is a Sanskrit word for waking up, enlightenment, if you like. It literally means extinguishing, like turning or blowing out a candle, meaning this sort of perpetual burning, just is like cooling, becoming really cool. But come as you are, and that connection to nirvana, they work together. Because you feel your experience really honestly, it's called satya. So, if you've been carrying something, holding on to something, anticipating something, this is your opportunity to let it go. And letting it go is like this sort of agitation releasing, cooling off. The mind becoming cooler rather than hot and agitated. Hold the patta with one hand, the same hand as the raised leg. The other hand is now free to come onto the lower leg, which we're meditating on soft extension of the inner groin. Any attempt to be the person willfully doing it will cause more separation. So it has to be very, very calm, very, very meditative. The top leg gets pulled towards your head and out to its own side. In your own time, you breathe through your nose if you can. Inner groin extending. Breath natural, honest, open. So expressive, honest, natural, open. Inhaling to come up, nice and calm. Bend the lower leg, release the upper leg. Put the belt to one side, hands on the ribs, maybe scoot the buttocks under, definitely take a deep breath in and out. So expressive breaths, 2, 3, 4 or more of them, that honesty, that satyam, sort of shedding, this wonderful feeling of shedding. Of, and cooling off, come as you are, whatever your heart mind has taken hold of, that's what we've come to shed, to drop, to let go. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a worry about the future, can be a regret about the past, can be a habitual idea about yourself in the present. When you're ready, raise up one leg and dorsey and plantar flex the foot, meaning point the toe, push the heel. You can add circles and half circles. You can add scrunching and unscrunching of the toes. I find all of this personally very, very helpful for hydrating the plantar fascia on the sole of the foot and for moving tissue right the way up through the leg and for creating neural connections with the body. When you feel there's life in that leg, like proper dynamic aliveness, then heel in, toes out, cross that leg over the other one. You go beyond the outer ankle, where the outer ankle sticks out, onto the flat part of what's called the fibula bone. You lift the foot that's on the floor off the floor, plunge through the gap, and interlace around your far shin or back thigh, or use a belt around either of those. The head comes back down, and you roll about, and hopefully you'll be able to find some sensations that are knockout, like, in a really positive way. So back in the 70s, people used to sometimes use the word knockout in a positive sense. Obviously, it can have a negative sense as well. But, something is like, oh, did you have a good weekend? Oh, yeah, it was really knockout, meaning that it was sort of, it really blew away the ordinary mundane paradigms. It was really expansive, it's really opening. But knockout, is like, I sometimes call the same thing, being knocked into the long grass. like in golf, which is, actually not what you want in golf, but it is what you want in yoga, to be knocked into the long grass, into the unknown, the spacious, the uncontrived, the non-compulsive. When you're ready, slow and calm release, both feet down on the floor. Scoot the buttocks under, take a deep breath in and out. Nice opportunity to just relax. Up comes the other leg, and we dorsally and plantar flex the foot. We can add circles, we can add scrunching and unscrunching of the toes. Breath, breath, breath. Heel in, toes out, cross that leg over the other one. Plunge through the gap. Again, you've got an option to hold the back of the thigh or the front of the shin, or even use a belt. And then it's rolling about, whether it be the whole body, whether it be the head and body, or whether it be the head on its own. It's down to intuition, intuitive movements that you breathe into. So deep, expressive breaths, intuitive movements that you breathe into. If the mind drifts, it means we need to find another sensation that is sufficiently rich to challenge the habit patterns that the mind is otherwise being taken down, the habit pathways that the mind is otherwise pulled along. So breathe without holding the breath, roll left, roll right, pause whenever you want to, need to. Expressive, honest, natural breath. Okay, nice and calm. Release when you're ready. Feet down to the floor, hands underneath the head, fingers interlaced. That already opens the chest, deepens the shoulder blades, lifts the chest, releases the diaphragm. Now, the diaphragm is a sort of dome-like structure, or like a parachute, like an open parachute sort of structure. It's lower at the back than it is at the front. At the front, it's attached to the bottom of the breastbone. At the back, it's attached to the top of the lumbar, the lower spine vertebrae. And on the inside, it's attached to the ribs. So you can feel the diaphragm. And as your chest raises up, it increases what's called the thoracic cavity, the rib cage space. And it means that together with the diaphragm, the capacity for increased volume in the thoracic cavity goes up exponentially. Meaning that when you take a breath, there's a lot more volume than there would have been before. Meaning that the air gets drawn in much more deeply with far less effort. Now we're going to lift the feet up off the floor when we're ready and lift the head. So this tones up the abdominals. Now I quite like to go between flexing more and flexing less. In other words, rolling my spine up, rolling even, some people can even roll the pelvis up. It doesn't matter if you can't. Just the effort to try to do so will stimulate the same muscles. So backwards, forwards, keeping the lower back from any tension by really letting this build in the tummy muscles. So really let it build in the tummy muscles. Yogically, the purpose of building intensity into the belly muscles is that it will challenge whatever the body-mind is holding. Okay, head down slowly, feet down slowly, head up, look at the navel, raise one leg, breathe through the nose, extend that leg out to about 45 degrees and draw it back, place it down, Do the same with the other. Extend it out to about 45 degrees, draw it back, place it down. Keep going with that for a few rounds. Breathing calmly. The neck is supported by the hands. The abdominals are helping to keep the head up as well. The lower back is resting. Raising one leg, extending it, drawing it back. Raising the other leg, extending it, drawing it back. So good for the knees to have this kind of movement without weight. A few more rounds if you're comfortable. But don't start letting it get tense. If you're getting tense, if you can keep it soft still. If you really can't keep it spacious and soft because the muscles are fatiguing, then you can stop at any point. But otherwise, a couple more on each leg if you can. Once you've done a couple more on each leg, then the feet will come to landing, the head will come down, the elbows will come down, the breath will come out. So really expressive sigh-like exhales. You know, it's really worth appreciating how important deep breaths are, what they can really do for us. And we're going to release our hands and extend the arms out to what is often called cactus position. So the arms are held in this sort of cactus position and a bend at the elbow of more than 90 degrees. Just going to change the lighting. So bend at the elbow of more than 90 degrees. If your wrists are raised up off the floor, then go wider still. Make the angle go even wider between the bicep and forearm if your wrists are pulled up away from the floor. We're coming into a pose called Jatara Parivartanasana. To do that pose, we lift up the feet. We pull the legs so close to the front of the pelvis that the back of the pelvis lifts, and then you either let your legs come down to one side away from me, or first, you bring your pelvis the opposite way to the way your legs are going. That's a lift and a shift, and then the legs come down. That acts as a sort of counterweight so that the pose doesn't collapse down, but can be guided down. Try to stack the top leg on top of the bottom leg, tone the tummy muscles, and draw deeply up through to the chest. The back arm, breathe its way back down. The tummy is strong in eccentric contraction, which means that it's toned strongly. Remember, strong means gathered together, and extended at the same time. Calmly coming up with the inhale, rolling easy. Feet land, realign your pelvis, so scoot the buttocks under, scoot the shoulder blades under, so you press for a second into the back of the head to scoot the shoulder blades under. Breathe through your nose if you can. Deep, expressive, honest, natural. Jaw soft, temples relaxed, brain relaxed, tongue relaxed. When ready, flex up again, so lift your feet. Flex so strongly that the back of the pelvis for a second lifts, and then either bring the legs just straight over or beforehand bring the pelvis the opposite way to the legs. Stack the legs. If the back arm lifts, that's no problem at all. You can allow it to lift. And all that needs to happen to bring it back down is length. So you draw your tummy to a toned position and up at the same time. The tummy is really dynamic. It's really strong. It's reiteratively strong. We keep that strength through the tummy as much as we can. We remind the tummy again and again. Draw in and extend. You can hover or land the legs. I've chosen to hover mine. Well done, nice and calm. Roll up. Feet down. Tuck the buttocks under, tuck the shoulder blades under. Let's take a few really deep, expressive breaths. So sighs are quite, a natural response to letting go. And letting go is really the foundation of what's happening in yoga. Just observing the lower back releasing itself naturally. Flex up your hips, lift up your feet, hug your legs. I've always preferred to have my toes together and knees apart, but you can do it with the legs together if you prefer. They're quite different, the knees apart, toes together, grip, or the legs together, grip. So you just have to ask yourself, which one is most conducive to the invitation to release that, of course, we want to accept. We want to accept the invitation to release. So rolling can be helpful. Saying yes to the moment is so important that the Sanskrit word for yes is perhaps the most famous mantra, bija mantra in the whole of all of the South Asian soteriologies, freedom practices from the regions that are now called India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and so on, Bangladesh. And that Sanskrit word, of course, is Om. In your own time, roll back to center, land the feet, rest the hands, breathe deeply. Expressive and deep, natural and easy. Observe tensions. Observe how observation itself is all that's required for their release. Just recognition rather than, attachment, which can happen, can't it? We can feel a sensation and then attach to it as mine. But instead of that, we just observe. It's like there's sensation. What's it like? Like really allow it to sort of speak or sing its song, if you will. Roll over onto your side to face towards this side of the room. And then you've got two options. Option one is to extend your arm and put a blanket between your head and arm. Option two is to support your head with your hand, extending the bottom ribs multiple times, breathing through the nose if you can, rolling backwards and forwards, massaging the body like that, not holding the breath. When ready, if ready, we're going to bring the top leg up and play with it between the horizontal and vertical plane with the intention to release the inner thigh into the breath, through the breath, with the breath. So releasing the inner thigh so that it feels like a holistic release. We say in yoga that everything is everything, meaning that for anything to release, like the inner thigh, everything has to release, like the breath and the mind. For anything to release, everything has to release. When you're ready, if you're ready, try and reach through to the big toe, which you can hold with your index finger, middle finger, and thumb. And it's really plenty, it's enough to hold like that and to breathe into it and to find ways to arrive in the body. You have the option also to extend the leg a little bit or to whatever amount invites the breath to release. Drawing through the thigh, reiteratively, through the thigh. We'll release the hamstring. So it's like combing energy through the thigh, going from sort of superficial to deep, repeatedly combing energy. And the more that energy moves through the thigh again and again, it picks up various muscle fibers. And the more those muscle fibers are engaged on the front, the more they release on the back. Okay, coming down calmly and coming up, ready for the second side of the same thing. So legs round to the other end of the mat. Similarly, extending and placing a blanket or resting the head on the hand. Breathing through your nose if you can. Get really good contact with the mat. Take deeper breaths if possible. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft. It's just nice to rest on the IT band, I think, on the outer leg. Breathe into that. It's great for the immune system, actually, to help move lymph around the body, which helps to maintain a healthy immune system. When ready, pick up the top leg and play with it with a view to loosen the inner thigh muscles, so much so that we can eventually start bringing the leg to the upright, but with everything together. Remember that the word strong is understood as together. You can think of that on any level, in any situation you like. Strong is together. It's togetherness. So working into it, releasing into it, breathing into it, massaging into it. Finding each and every fiber. It's wonderful because there are endless layers. You go through one layer of release and then, oh great, you find another layer, deeper layer to release, and so on. Eventually we can see if we can reach calmly for the great toe. That's what anatomy books call it, the great toe. And breathe through your nose nice and calm. And then begin to extend the leg by degrees. If you want, or if it's not even if you want, it's if it's helpful. It may be that you've got the knee bent and that's working really well as a position to breathe into, to begin to drop whatever the mind has taken hold of. Or you might find beginning to extend the leg or extending the leg ups the ante on the invitation to release. Again, multiple fibers coming together in waves, combing, stroking, drawing, brushing the energy through the leg again and again. You get a wave going through the leg, then another wave, which picks up fibers that the first wave didn't pick up, and then another wave, which picks up fibers that the second wave didn't pick up, and so on. Wave after wave after wave after wave after wave. And in this way, the jug fills drop by drop, as the Buddha says. And we end up with a really strong front thigh, but not from locking, not from a person deciding to grip, but from coming together, bringing the fibers together. Well done, nice and calm. Bring the leg back down when you're ready. Knees up, come up from the side. We're going to take a blanket and put that down on our mats. Time's going quick in this class. It's a lovely class. That's a lovely company today. So if you've got a brick block or a regular block, either of those will be fine. The brick block, probably a little better, but the other one's fine as well. Cross-legged position, the gap between the legs and the pelvis. So it's called Sukhasana. Then whichever block you've got, if you've got a brick block, that's probably a bit better. The regular block's okay as well, works as well. There's always a gap between the legs and the pelvis. It's part of one of the defining marks of Sukhasana. So do make sure there's a gap. I can put a block there. It's big enough for that. Buttock flesh is drawn out and back. And we simply lean forwards onto our block. So our hand comes onto our block. And that usually, well, it always increases the stretch along the IT band. For that to not create a sort of opposition in the knee, the inner thighs need to have time enough to soften into this. Little muscles inside the knee need to adjust to the change as well. So they're given time and attention, the popliteus muscle, time and attention. Keep breathing into it. Now, for many of us, we're going to spend a good long time just investigating ways in which we can release little tensions, moving left, moving right, and so on. It may be that as those little tensions release in a few moments or minutes or months, that one goes forwards. The goal isn't to go forwards, the goal is to release the tensions. So it doesn't matter if you end up not going very far forwards, but you're releasing a lot of tension. That's equal, completely equal, to coming really far forwards and releasing a lot of tension. So I'm giving instructions that are not based on superior, inferior, but just based on what's relative, what is appropriate to the situation you find yourself in. So it could be for some people that you stay with the hands on the block, others might bring their head to the block. For me, if I tilt the block a little, that's a more comfortable position for my neck. But if you tilt the block, because you don't want it to suddenly fall out, you might want to hold the bottom. And so there's a whole range of options, but we all want the same thing, which is to find enough tension. Don't want too much, just enough tension to be able to softly release what you can find through the breath. So the block can be any height for the hands. It can go lower for the hands. For example, you could start with a high block, end up with a lower block, or you could, and then the next stage is the head block, and then that could be a lower block, and a lower block. Again, lower isn't better. We just lower it if it's, appropriate. We just find that that's a better support for the position the body's in. Wherever we came to, we come up nice and slow. And we'll change the cross of the legs. As I can't quite sing one of the Rolling Stones songs accurately because time is not on our side. No, it isn't. And so we draw the body flesh out and back, and we're going to move very, very slowly again. It may be that the right place is just a little lean on the block on its full height. All we want is to find tension and feel it release and melt. If it completely melts at one station, then it sort of, you overflow into another station. They're not destinations in the sense, that stations aren't better and better the further along any given train line you get. I mean, they might be by coincidence, but that's not a rule, is it? I often give the example of the train from Brighton to London. Each station isn't incrementally better than the one before. Preston Park, admittedly, is a nice station. There's lots of leaves and trees around Preston Park Station. Essex Station, well, I suppose it's a matter of opinion whether you like that or not. Burgess Hill, it's quite an interesting little bridge across Burgess Hill Station. Wivelsfield feels a bit like no man's land. Haywards Heath, don't really fancy that one so much. Three Bridges, no, I don't know. I've never seen anyone ever get on or off the train there. I don't know who lives there. and so on. So, you know, they're not better and better necessarily. You might end up with Blackfriars. That is quite a nice station. But same with the blocks, you know, it's just they're not better or worse. They're just which one you are at, you know, which one you want to get off at. Maybe you want to get off at Hassocks Station because you want to go to the Hassocks Hotel where David Bowie once played in the 1970s before he was famous. True story. Calmly coming up when you're ready, because we gotta. We're going to lay. I can't believe it. Can't believe it. It's ready to start, but keep looking at the clock like I'm looking at it wrong, but it says it's what it says. So we're going to lay down on our backs, make sure we're warm. We're coming into our final surrender, the Shavasana pose. I'll keep it relatively short but sweet because I know some of you come to this class because you've got other things you need to do before work or whatever. Arms face up. But even a short Shavasana is worth doing. It's always worth doing. Arms facing up, shoulder blades scooted under the body, eyes will close. So you feel the steadiness of the eyeballs over the eyelids. Everything that can be soft is soft. For a moment, feel the total release of every single part of the body. The arms, the legs, the pelvis, the ribs, the hands, the feet, the facial muscles. Now a little movement of the toes and the fingers and the arms and the legs, little stretches. Bend your legs when you're ready. Place the soles of the feet onto the floor. Scoot the buttocks under, take an extra deep breath to let the lower back release entirely. Roll onto your side, facing away from this side of the room, and lay as comfortably as you can. Rolling again when ready to face towards this side of the room, and laying as comfortably as you can. When ready, bring yourself up from the side to face towards the shrine, bringing your hands into a prayer position. If you agree with the following statement, say Om at the end. May any benefit that we've gained in our acting in this way be shared for the alleviation of the suffering of absolutely every single being. Om. Thank you very much for your time, Roomers and Zoomers. Well done for making it through the storm, which is pretty stormy here in Brighton this morning. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate you coming.
Thank you,
and see you soon.
It's stormy here too.
Guys, lots of love.
No, thank you.
Bye.